Ah, so you found this place. Strange, isn't it? All that noise out there. Lights, lies, laughter. Yet somehow you stumbled into a forest full of ghosts. Don't worry, I'm not one of the crazies. Or maybe I am. Depends who you ask. The night's colder than most and the world's meaner than it used to be. But the fire's still burning. As long as my sword keeps it company, you're safe here. What's my name? That's not really important right now. I'm just a traveler, same as you. Tired feet, tired soul, trying to remember why I keep walking. Sit. Rest a while. The road won't miss you for a few minutes. I'll tell you a story, one that smells of iron, loss, and a bit of madness. The kind of tale that reminds you why men like us never sleep easy. There was this man I met once, or maybe I just saw him from afar. Hard to tell. These memories blend like blood and rain. Big bastard. Carried a sword so wide it made the world look smaller. Not a blade, really. More like a slab of hatred shaped into steel. He walked like he was dragging hell behind him. No banner, no comrades. Just scars and silence. The kind of silence that eats sound, you know? Like the world itself didn't want to talk back. First time I saw him, he was surrounded by corpses. Bandits, mercs, doesn't matter. They'd made the same mistake everyone does. Thought monsters wear horns. Turns out they wear skin. Sometimes armor. Sometimes they laugh before you cut them in half. He didn't say a word. Just cleaned his blade on one of the bodies. Then looked up at me, or maybe past me, with eyes that said, "I dare you to give me a reason." I didn't. There was a mark on him, though, right here, like something had bitten him from the inside out. I've seen curses, sigils, God's graffiti, but this one, it didn't glow. It bled, even when he stood still. Everywhere he went, things followed. Not people, things that shouldn't crawl or whisper, shadows that hungered. When the sun set, they came. And when they came, he smiled. That's when I realized he wasn't fighting to live. He was living to fight. Poor bastard probably thought he could outswing damnation. You ever meet a man who thinks his pain is a weapon? It's like watching a drowning fool use water for air. He ended up in one of those rat holes they call towns. You know the kind. Drunks, whores, corpses that still pay rent. They tried to rob him, of course. They stopped trying once they saw what spilled out of their friends. He sat at the bar after. Didn't even look proud. Just asked for a drink like it was the only thing keeping his ghost tethered. Some fool of a girl tried talking to him. Thought she saw a spark of something human under all that armor. She didn't see the mark. Or maybe she did, and that's why she screamed later. He didn't even flinch when it started. The walls went black, the air turned to teeth, and those things came crawling out, whispering that sweet hymn of the damned. They didn't come for her or me. They came for him. He fought like a man trying to stab his own fate to death. Blood, fire, bone, it all blurred into one. When it ended, the tavern was quiet. No screams, no survivors. Just him, standing in the smoke, eyes staring at a world that never gave him a chance. Later, I asked someone who he was. They said he didn't have a name, just a title. Something about black and swords, but I can't recall exactly. Funny, isn't it? You can remember the shape of a man's suffering, but not the sound of his name. That was the first time I saw him. The world didn't feel the same after that. Like every shadow was a memory of his passing. I suppose you might have heard of him, or maybe not. Some stories hide themselves till you're ready to see them. Either way, it's not a story for the faint-hearted. The fire's still warm, traveler. You've got time. Let me tell you how the poor bastard got that mark in the first place. He didn't rest much, that one. Just walked until his boots bled, until the sun stopped caring to rise. Found his way into a place that still called itself a village, though it looked more like a graveyard with ambition. Funny how people keep building fences around their misery, as if that keeps the rot out. This place stank of fear, not the kind that runs, the kind that preys while it's being eaten. He wandered through the streets, sword on his back like a coffin he'd forgotten to bury. Eyes watched him from shutters, wide, desperate, hiding behind curtains of dirt and superstition. They whispered, always whispering, about monsters, about offerings, about something they called the Count. That title used to mean nobility, didn't it? These days it just means the biggest beast gets a chair. He found a girl there, quiet thing, all scars and stares. Tried to warn him, told him the Count didn't take kindly to strangers. He just looked at her and said something like, "Good. I don't take kindly to anyone." Still makes me laugh, even now. By nightfall, the guards came. Not real soldiers, just men pretending. They tried to arrest him for breathing too loudly, or for existing, whichever came first. He let them. Walked into the Count's hall like a man walking into a storm he'd been chasing his whole life. I followed, maybe. Or maybe I dreamed I did. Hard to tell when your head's full of ghosts. The Count wasn't a man anymore. His flesh looked borrowed, like it hadn't quite agreed to the arrangement. Eyes too sharp, teeth too many. He called the wanderer heretic, accursed, marked. That last one struck something in him. I saw his hand twitch toward that slab of iron. Then the room went to hell. Guards screamed, torches died, and the Count showed his true shape. Some pulsing mass of muscle and mouths, all praise and blasphemy at once. The wanderer didn't hesitate. Most men freeze before the unreal. He grinned. Steel net flesh, flesh bit back, and the hall filled with a music only the damned could dance to. It wasn't victory that drove him. It was habit. The way his body moved, you could tell. He'd killed so long he didn't remember what living felt like. And when he finally buried that sword through the Count's heart, he didn't roar, didn't cheer, just breathed, like a man exhaling his last bit of mercy. The girl found him later, sitting among the ruins. She saw the mark on his neck, saw it bleeding again, like it always did when the monsters fell. She wanted to thank him, I think. But when she looked in his eyes, she saw something worse than death. She saw familiarity. You ever see two people recognize each other's pain? It's not beautiful. It's a kind of war, the quiet kind. He told her to leave, said this world doesn't forgive the curious or the kind. Then he walked off again, bleeding from wounds that weren't on his body. The Count's corpse twitched behind him, and I swear as he passed me by, I could hear the brand whisper. "Not yet," it said. "Not done." And that's the thing about men like him. They don't end, they linger. Like smoke after a fire. Like guilt. I asked an old priest once what the brand meant. He said it was a curse. I said curses are just promises kept too long. That poor bastard carried his promise through hell and back. I think that's why I remember him. Or maybe I remember because I can't forget what came next. See, that wasn't the first time I saw him. Or the last. Before all that, before the mark, before the monsters, there was another story. A younger man, a mercenary with nothing but his sword and a death wish. I'll tell you that one too. Maybe it'll help you understand how a man becomes a curse. With legs. Before the brand. Before the monsters. He was just a boy. Born in mud. Under bodies that had already given up breathing. Yeah, you heard that right. His mother was hanging from a tree when he decided to show up to this miserable world. That's the kind of start that writes your ending for you. When death's your midwife, you grow up expecting the world to bite first. The mercenaries found him, thought it was a joke. Picked him up like some cursed puppy, laughing about omens and bad luck. One of the women, the only one with a shred of decency left, took pity on him. She fed him, held him, called him hers, until the world reminded her what happens to good people. One night, a man she trusted took her from him, and when he grew old enough to hold a blade, he paid the favor back in kind. Not because it fixed anything, it never does, but because the world had taught him early. The only language worth learning was violence. He grew among killers, learned how to swing a sword before he learned how to sleep. No friends, no childhood, just coin for corpses. Every man he followed died. Every man who tried to use him got what they deserved. Still he kept walking, like there was something out there that made all that blood mean something. That's the thing about kids like him. They think pain's a lesson, not a warning. You tell them life's cruel, they think you're daring them to prove it wrong. One day, he crossed paths with a band that fought like wolves, sharper, hungrier, led by a man whose smile could convince angels to fall. The kind of bastard who could make killing look like destiny. One boy fought him. Didn't stand a chance, of course. Got beat into the dirt, sword in hand, bleeding pride and dust. But the wolf saw something in him. The kind of rage that could be shaped into purpose. So he took him in, gave him a new name, gave him meaning. That's the cruelest gift you can give a killer. Purpose. Because once he believes, he stops being a man and becomes a weapon with a heartbeat. And that's what he became. Their blade, their monster. He fought wars that weren't his, spilled blood for dreams that weren't his own. And every victory felt hollow, but he smiled anyway, because his commander smiled. He didn't see it then, none of us do, that the man leading him wasn't saving the world. He was carving his own name into it, one corpse at a time. A debt their campfires, the laughter, the lies about tomorrow. He sat apart as always. When the others joked about women or glory, He sharpened his blade. When they talked about peace, he just looked at the stars like he was waiting for them to burn out. He once told someone that dreams were like gods, beautiful from afar, cruel up close. And he was right. The closer he got to his commander's dream, the more it started to smell like rot. They rose high, that band, higher than any of us thought mercenaries could. Took castles, crowns, hearts. Every warlord wanted them, every kingdom feared them. And at the center of it all, that smiling wolf, whispering promises about a kingdom built on friendship and ambition. The boy, the poor bastard, believed him. Maybe he needed to. Maybe he wanted to think his life meant more than the graves he filled. So he fought harder. Every scar, every scream, all for someone else's dream. He started to look happy. That's the part that still gets me. For a while, I think he really was. And that, traveler, is the cruelest trick the world ever plays. It lets you taste peace just long enough to know what you're about to lose. I watched him stand on those battlefields, the sun bleeding red across his armor. And for a moment, I thought maybe he'd escaped whatever hell birthed him. But men like him don't escape. They just circle the fire, same as me, same as you, burning slow, pretending it's warmth. That was the beginning of his rise, and the seed of his fall. He didn't know it then, but fate was already sharpening the knife. In closing tale for another night, don't rush it. Good tragedies deserve time to breathe. So sit back, feed the fire. Next time, I'll tell you how the dream started to crack, and how gods start to notice when men fly too close to their thrones. They called themselves a band, but they were more like a fever, spreading, consuming. Every battle fed them. Every victory made the world smaller. And at the center of it all stood the wolf, that smiling devil of a man, with our poor bastard forever one step behind him, swinging fate like a hammer. Funny thing about winning, it rots faster than defeat. You start believing you deserve it, and that's when the gods notice you again. The boy, hell, by then he was a man, became their spearhead, sent where angels wouldn't crawl. He'd break a line by sunrise, drag back trophies by noon, and sleep beside corpses as if they were old friends. The others adored him, feared him, maybe both. Even the wolf looked at him sometimes like a craftsman, admiring his finest blade. But a blade only knows one prayer: cut. So that's what he did. When the wars ended, if you can call it an ending, the wolf was given a title, lands, the promise of a crown. A new age, they said, a brighter dawn. We should have known dawns are just nights pretending to change their name. The poor bastard looked lost. No enemy left to kill, no cause left to bleed for. The wolf had his destiny, he had his silence. So he left, just walked out, like a shadow remembering it didn't belong to the light. I followed, maybe. Maybe I only dreamt I did. He found work in the gutters again, merc jobs, monster hunts, anything that let him sweat the ghosts out. But peace doesn't let go easy. One night, she found him, the one who saw the man beneath the armor. Her laugh could melt steel, and he hated her for it, because it reminded him there were still things worth losing. They fought beside each other, slept beneath the same sky. And for a while, the world almost forgave him. You could see it in his shoulders, less weight, more breath. The kind of happiness that makes fate lick its lips. Then, one morning, the wolf came back. No crown, no glory, just that same damned smile. Said he needed his sword again, one last campaign. The bastard should have said no. But loyalty's a drug stronger than any poison. They rode together once more, and the earth shook with their triumphs. Kings bent knee, enemies fled, and every victory built a staircase straight to the heavens. The wolf climbed it like he'd been born up there, while the rest of us carried the weight beneath. The cracks started small, whispers, eyes that lingered too long. The wolf's dream was becoming something else, not freedom, not peace, but worship. He wanted the world to kneel, not heal. And when gods and men both stared too long at that ambition, the sky itself began to look hungry. You could feel it in the air, the kind of pressure before storms or miracles. The poor bastard felt it too. He started asking questions no one wanted answered. About the price of dreams, about whose blood built destiny's throne. And when you start asking questions like that, you stop being part of the story and start becoming its problem. He was a sword too honest for politics, a man too scarred for peace. The wolf saw that, and in those silver eyes, you could see the decision hardening. The day they finally clashed, it wasn't war, it was inevitability. The dreamer and his blade, breaking the spell they'd cast together. Blood on sunlight. Friendship turned into confession. And when it was over, the man with the sword walked away again, alone. The wolf lay behind him, broken but breathing, staring up at a sky that would never forgive him for wanting too much. I remember that silence, the kind that hums in your bones, the one that says something holy just died. You don't recover from that, traveler. You just carry it until it carries you. That's how dreams end, not with a scream, but with a man walking away before the echo can catch him. Next time I'll tell you what happened after, how the gods decided to answer the wolf's prayers, and how even hell looks away when men try to become divine. Ah, you're still here. It's been a while since I've had company. Fine, let's continue. See, when a man like him starts to rise, the heavens lean in too close. They whisper promises, they offer crowns, and they wear shadows like robes. He thought he was safe, thought the war cry ended when the swords sheathed. Fool. The band still celebrated. Laughter, drink, songs in the night. He sat apart as always, listening to the echoes of war still ringing in his limbs. The wolf stood at the peak, drinking in adoration. The poor bastard. He watched it all and wondered when the mountain would crumble. It cracked first in the quiet moments. A man kneeling for forgiveness. A woman's fear ignored. A dream tighter than a noose. Then came the chase, the fortress, the flag, the meaningless roar of victory. They conquered because they could, because the world wished to believe in something bright. He fought battles he didn't want. He killed enemies with names he forgot, all for the wolf's promise of glory. He believed it. Once. Glory. The pretty word men use when they don't want to look at the bodies under their boots. And while the world applauded, the darkness leaned in. In the corridors of power there were whispers, a price for every sword. He saw men change. He saw laughter turn brittle. He watched hope refine into ambition so sharp it sliced civility in half. The wolf asked for one more campaign. They packed up the banners, marched under sun-bleached hopes. The bastard followed because, well, what else does a man with scars do? He followed the only thing that still moved. The campaign was hell in daylight. Walls bled, spears bent under human weight. The sky looked away. And then the night came. Not the kind you sleep through. A blackness that swallowed moons. A silence so loud your bones rattled in it. He found the door. The pact being whispered beyond. The brand being pressed into flesh not ready. He could feel it in his gut. The world was turning into something else. Something hungry. That's when the wolves started howling at the moon from inside the fortress. The banner turned black. The dream cracked, and the gods smiled. They say when the gods laugh, death dances. He didn't know that yet. He just knew his shadow looked wrong in the firelight. He ran, not because he was afraid, because he remembered what fear tastes like, and he hated it. When I found him later, the sword in his hand looked too heavy. The mark on his neck glowed faintly in the dark. He sat by a fire once again, alone, waiting. The dream had ended, but the nightmare, it was just beginning. First, next time I'll tell you how the sky bled red, how the gods answered, and how the world forgot mercy. Brace yourself. Because this isn't the tale of a man who wins. It's the tale of a man who refuses to lose. And sometimes, that's worse. You ever see the sun die, traveler? I have. It doesn't go quietly. It screams red across the clouds like a throat cut too deep. That's how it began. The day the gods answered the wolf's prayer. He had been caged, broken, hanging on the edge of his dream. His band scattered, hunted, their bodies strung up like decorations for the world to forget. And him? He still thought destiny was listening. Funny thing about gods, they always listen when you stop begging. The poor bastard came for him. Couldn't let it end that way. He fought through a fortress of corpses, climbed through screams, until he reached the wolf's prison. Found him there, half dead, half divine already. And for a heartbeat, you could almost believe they'd forgive each other. But forgiveness has no place in stories like this. The air changed. The wind stopped. The light bled sideways and the world began to melt. Flesh turned to wax, the ground to whispering mouths. And overhead, a sun eclipsed by something alive. The sky wasn't sky anymore. It was watching. They called it a ceremony. I called it hunger made holy. The wolf stood among it, offered his comrades his dream, his very soul, to beings older than sin. And they answered, oh yes. They gave him wings of flesh, a crown made of the screams of everyone who ever trusted him. I remember their faces. Friends turned to offerings. The laughter that turned to sobs. The eyes that begged the world to stop looking. You never forget the smell of faith burning. They say hell is full of demons, They're wrong. Hell is full of believers who finally got what they prayed for. The bastard fought anyway. Against fate, against God, against everything. He cut through the impossible because there was nothing else left to do. But you can't fight the sky, traveler. You can only crawl beneath it and hope it blinks. When the storm ended, he was lying in a sea of bones, his mark glowing like a wound that would never close. The wolf had ascended, the band was gone, and the world had forgotten the taste of mercy. He didn't cry, didn't scream, just stared into that black horizon where gods had feasted and whispered something I'll never forget. If this is what dreams cost, I'll burn every last one. He staggered away from that place, carrying a curse that smelled like destiny and rot. Every step left shadows. Every night drew monsters to his fire. And me? I followed the trail like an idiot. Maybe I wanted to see how far hate can walk before it falls over. He never spoke of the wolf again. Never looked back. But every time the sun bled red at dusk, you could see it in his eyes. A flicker of the man who once believed in something bright. That was the day the sky learned to bleed, and we learned what kind of gods we'd built. So now when I sit here and watch the fire die, I think of him, the last fool who tried to fight the divine and lived long enough to regret it. You might have heard this story before. Or maybe you just feel it deep down. That pull between love and rage, between faith and rot. Either way, you're part of it now. Once you've heard the tale of the man beneath the bleeding sky, it doesn't leave you. It waits. It whispers. And the next time the sun turns red, you'll remember.